I think it's always good to like talk about the history and to understand how we got from there to here. I used to go to a lot of youth clubs, and the youth clubs, rather than tell me what to do, they used to ask me, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I want to play basketball." So they brought basketball there. So I'm like, "Okay, well I'm too small, I can't really do that. That's not for me." I'm like, "Yeah, but I like music." So they did a raffle, made some money, we bought some music equipment, RX-17 drum machine. Do you know what I mean? Then they went and bought an Akai sampler, S1000. My world changed when that happened. Being from Bristol, my history, being around some great bands such as obviously Massive Attack and Tricky and Portishead and there was Smith and Mighty. There was a lot of unsung heroes in Bristol as well. There were loads of people making music all the time, but we all knew each other. There's a famous crew called the Wild Bunch. There's like Nelly Hooper, Miles, Grant Marshall, Mushroom, Willie Wee, 3D. This crew came back from touring all over the world and this brought this culture back to Bristol, and we were just obsessed with it. Suddenly the music they were bringing back, when you heard them on a radio, it just sounded like little pop tunes. But when you heard it on a sound system, like a big reggae sound system, wires just stuck in the back of a speaker, you know what I mean? You touch the wires, you know what I mean? You can get shock. You know what I'm saying? It was that rags. You know what I mean? I was real small at the time. I used to hide in the dance. I used to have to hide because I was so young. But the reason why I wanted to speak about them and that element of it is because it was all about the bass. It was all about the kick. It was all about the snare. And that's all we ever cared about. I was like the last to come through from that generation. So when anyone spoke about Roni Size, they always used to go, "Oh yeah, that kick, that snare, that bass." It was like, in London you have Notting Hill Carnival. What an amazing place. You walk from system to system. It's like the bass line changes from soca, and then it could be house and it could be hip hop, and you could go to someone's front garden and they've got there. In Bristol we had St Paul's Carnival, and it was a smaller version. So the sound systems were tighter. Do you know what I mean? And I live on the hill, so as soon as anything started to happen in St Paul's, as soon as you hear like a little bass line, you're like, you know what I'm saying? You like be down there like quick. Do you know what I mean? Like down to St Paul's, and you could hear these different sounds crossing over, and that had a massive influence on me. You know what I mean? Hearing like a soca record with these mad kind of like percussive drums, and then you have like these reggae bass lines, and then you'd hear like these MCs somewhere in the middle and some hip hop breaks kind of like clanging, and so I swear down. There'll be a point halfway down the hill, you hear it all together, and it sounds like a fucking tune. And you like somehow, I'm like, how am I gonna like remember that tune? But you just never will. It's personal to you. It wasn't just like the actual carnival itself. It was some of the people. You had like unsung heroes who had sound systems, DJs who worked in a bank as well on the weekend, and these people they live and breathe the music. But in Bristol, finding venues was easy. Derelict. Just like Birmingham, man. There was a lot of buildings. People just used to just go in there, string up system, carry speaker box, get a van, string up system, get amps. And some of the clubs, they were really welcoming. They liked us. We were nice guys. We had this weird kind of farmer's accent, you know what I mean? It was like, that's just what we were. It was like, so finding venues for us was great. But that also added to the acoustics. Nothing better to know that your tune works when you hear the shaking of a glass window, you know what I mean, in a church. Do you know what I mean? That was like, okay, yeah, that works. You know what I mean? So sound system culture had a lot to play, a lot to offer to us back in the day. A lot of people assume that, oh yeah, you guys are the inventors of drum and bass. Nah, it's nothing like that. Do you know what I mean? There was many before and there'll be many after. But to me, drum and bass and jungle isn't necessarily the music, it's the actual era. There was a point where it was jungle, because it used to be called jungle techno. So, but we all need these names. Do you know what I mean? Like we need neuro, we need tech step, we need all these different names so we can identify our eras and to know what school you come from. Do you know what I mean? I know what school I come from, but it was all about the way the music sounded on the sound systems. And we tried to recreate that in the studio. Say 91 through to about 1999, we were prolific. When I say we, there was myself, there was DJ Krust, there was DJ Dime, there was DJ Self, there was MC Dynamite, there was Flynn, there was Flora, there was Roughneck Tin Crew. You know, there was a whole heap of people in Bristol. That Bristol sound, you know, the sky's grey. You would love a grey day. You know what I mean? That was a studio day. That was like, yeah, it's great. We're going to the studio today. We spent like months in the studio, growing beards, I didn't grow locks on purpose. Trust me. When I was in the studio, it was like I come out there and I had a beard and I had locks. I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? They used to call me Attic Man. You know what I mean? Can't even joke about it, you know. Didn't even care about the way that you smell. You didn't even eat properly. It was just all about the art and the craft. And we spent months and months in the studio trying to do something and create something. We always tried to make music like it was the future. We tried to make music like how it was going to sound in 2020. Do you understand? And now you got people in 2020 who are trying to make music like how it sounded in 1996. And that's the truth. You know what I mean? Not knocking anything, but I am bitching a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? Because back in the day, you had to sample that kick. You had to EQ it. You had to like rebounce it, EQ it again, just to get it to sound fat. You had to put it through a mixing desk. But we had some bastard desks back in the day. You know, we didn't have a gate, so you have all this noise. The irony is now everyone's trying to put that noise back into the tunes. I must have got a sample CD the other day of just like clicks and grains. I'm like, did I not just spend the last 20 years trying to get that shit out of my tunes? And now I've got to put it back in. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, you know, people are trying to replicate. You know, I know I digress a bit, but, you know, people say, what was your first instrument? Well, my first instrument was 2 turntables and a mixer. You know, back in the day, it was like whatever you could use. It was a turntable and a tape deck. You use that, you know, you just get it up and you just, you know, you try mixing 2 together until they brought out a mixer. Then I was obsessed with gadgets, drum machines and keyboards and all kinds of what was coming out. You know, back in the day, it was just RX-7 drum machines. Cubase was like this machine which used to annoy the hell out of my girlfriend. Had this little boop, 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 boop. But she's like, can you just turn that thing off? Have you ever heard of a Roland S550 sampler? It's a big chunky sampler, it's big, had like 13.4 seconds. And then once you use all those seconds, that was it. Do you know what I mean? you had to make whatever you could out of that 13.4 seconds. You know, using the Atari 1040 ST, which was the computer at the time, had these little blocks you picked up and just moved around. You know, I remember I had a Kawai module which I used, a TX81Z, which was a Yamaha, which is great for subs, and a set of NS10s for crying out loud, and that was it. You know, we couldn't afford much. I couldn't afford nothing. My brother, he bought all the equipment. Back in like early 90s, it was expensive. It was expensive shit. And then all of a sudden, it was free. But the equipment was really important. Yeah.
How did you like embrace the like change of technology? Because obviously it's like changed like immensely over the last 20 years. Did you like embrace the technology, or was it like
absolutely?
I grew up on the old stuff.
I have to embrace it. You have to embrace it. Love to embrace it. Always make sure you keep some of your old shit there. Do you know what I mean? So that's your signature sound. I still got like a Roland S760 sampler, which is a great sampler. I still use it. It still comes up on my, you know, I've got all my samples in there. So if I ever want to sound like 997, I just load that shit up and it's there. But you have to embrace it, and not just the technology, but the techniques. There was a time when everyone had to pay for plugins, and there was only a certain elite people who had the plugins. Do you know what I mean? So they were like, we got all these expensive plugins. Yeah, look at us, we're great. And then overnight, waves got cracked. And then what happened was, all these kids who knew how to use this stuff and knew they were better than us, they got hold of all the equipment, and before you know it, we were wiped out in like the dinosaurs. They had these cracks, and they was like using it in such a way. They were shelving, they were cutting, they were boosting, they were getting basses. I'm like, shit, I need to get up on my game, because you get complacent. And once all these new artists came through, when Pendulum came through, when all the early dubstep artists came through, so I mean, really technically, we're making stuff sound so much better than what we was doing in jungle. We got complacent. Do you know what I mean? In our world, because we just thought it was gonna be there forever, and it's a good lesson to learn. Never get complacent.